and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Mr. Pankaj Kapur, Supriya Pathak Kapur, and Malavika Banerjee. We've had the pleasure of hosting them at our other festivals in Jharkhand and Kolkata, and we're very, very happy and excited that they are here with us in Bhubaneswar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us here today.
Thank you, Pankaj ji. It's just wonderful. The last time they performed Dopehari was just before the pandemic for the Tata Steel Festival in Ranchi. So it's tremendous to see you all unchanged, looking fresher if anything.
Thank you.
So today they were kind enough to also do a session on ahead of the play, which is a concluding event of our festival. So we thought with two eminent actors who many of us have actually grown up watching, admiring, laughing and crying with, it bears a mauka bhi hai to talk about these journeys, your parallel and joint journeys through the world of cinema and theatre. So, with your permission, I will start with Pankaj ji. Should I say age before beauty?
No, I think much better an actor before anybody else. That's what I would say.
She's just being sweet and nice and humble too.
No. Everybody knows. I don't have to say anything. But it's actually him who needs to talk about acting specially.
We will just do a kind of a jugalbandi. And talking about both your journeys, yours is quite different. It started in Ludhiana. You were growing up there. And what was the acting bug that caught you? When did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Who were your inspirations?
I suppose it's it will be a bit of a cliche if I say that when I was really, really small, I knew that I wanted to be an actor. I mean, I think my parents were greatly instrumental, my mother especially, who initiated me into the process of becoming an actor. I mean, she was very creative, so she would make us do small little things, perform small little things with the children of the mohalla. And one was getting a grounding of literature from my father, who was a professor in English, and who would give us stories of Sherlock Holmes in those days, of Shakespeare, and of Father Brown, and Sir Lancelot, and a whole lot of English literature, for that matter. So I think that sort of became a kind of grounding for me to grow on with my own environment over there. And by the time I was in college, probably first year, I'd quite made up my mind that I want to be an actor. Of course, there was a series of incidents like being an actor in school and in college and being the secretary of the Dramatic Society, etc. But I suppose it was this grounding, one, the initiation by my mother into acting, and the literature part that came to me from my father, which sort of created a base for me. For a boy from Ludhiana in those times, I'm talking of the 70s, to be able to take a decision that I want to become a professional actor and do it as a professional work in my life. So I suppose these were majorly the reasons behind it.
So was there any fear that, it was an unusual thing? I'm sure not many of your peer group would be saying, "Main actor banna chahta hu." So was there any sense that you were really charting uncharted ground?
I think I had just made up my mind. I knew there was amazing amount of opposition excepting my parents, especially my father, who was greatly supportive. Actually, he had to hear a lot more because of me from his colleagues and people of his age, etc., as to what is it that you're letting your son do. But I think I personally was quite sure as to what I wanted to do. I didn't know where the roads would open up. I had no clue about that. It was just the desire to be an actor that drove the whole thing, and which allowed me to step into the professional world of acting with the support of my father. I think one of the major roles was played by my father in my journey as an actor.
And before I go to Supriya Di, Supriya Ji, I don't know why I'm saying Di like a good Bengali. Was it theatre? Was it theatre that you wanted to do at that stage? or was it cinema that was attracting you, or did you not think that far?
No. It was very clear I wanted to be a film actor. But my father told me that you must train yourself as an actor, because he was an educationalist. He said, whatever you want to do in life, you must educate yourself in that. And so it was he who found out National School of Drama for me. And therefore I landed up there. Actually, the Film Institute sort of rejected me in the screen test. In the audition they had passed me, but in the screen test I was rejected. But I was selected in National School of Drama. Therefore, that was the place where I thought I could learn acting. And once I started learning acting from there, I developed a passion for theatre. And then it was difficult for me to break away from there and come into cinema. But eventually the desire to be an actor, because the only exposure I had in a city like Ludhiana in the 70s was the Hindi film. That's about it. So the basic desire was films, but it got rooted towards theatre, which I think sort of helped me to sort of make a choice at that given time. And yet the reality of times showed me that to diversify one's talent, to be able to come out and work in different mediums, you will have to step out or maybe step into other mediums as well. But the first love at that time became theatre, though.
Okay, so theatre kind of, you discovered theatre and theatre remained
right.
part of your thing.
Absolutely.
May I just request that these lights are dimmed a little? I can see Supriya ji also kind of squinting. Just a little dimming of these lights would help. So this was Ludhiana and, parental, larger family concern, parents being supportive. You were born to the stage in a way. So how did that happen? Sometimes that can have quite the opposite reaction, that you want to kind of run away from it.
I think I didn't want to be an actor. That was the first thing. I was training myself to be a dancer. I had joined Nalanda University. So basically I wanted to be a theoretician, I would say, because I wanted to do my MA and my PhD in subjects related to dance, and more than practical dance, it was the theory of dance which I wanted to look into. So I was more inclined towards that. It just so happened that my mother was wanting to do a play, and she thought, my sister, Ratna Pathaksha, she was already an actress. She was working in the theatre and all that. So everybody automatically thought that it would be Ratna who would be doing this role that mom was wanting to do a play of. But my mother sprung a surprise and said, no, Supriya has to do it. If she agrees, only then will I be able to do this play. So we did it on a very small level because I didn't want to be an actor. So I said, I'm not doing it like that. But I think it worked very well for the audiences, and I enjoyed the process of acting very much. And then just one thing led to the other. So it wasn't really a planned movement towards any particular goal. I think my goal towards acting and whatever I learned about it was after I met Pankaj actually. Till then I was just dabbling with the profession, trying to understand it, trying to see what I can do with it, but really never being as interested in it as I became when I met Pankaj.
Yeah, but while dabbling, I think you got 2 Filmfare Awards, a couple of national awards. So that was some serious dabbling that was taking place.
Well, yes, I did dabble a little like that, and I did get a few awards. But I was lucky, I think, of getting good roles. And well, I enjoyed the process. I still do. I enjoy the process of acting quite a lot, very much. I mean, that's what I really live for, kind of thing. But and I don't really worry about what's going to happen afterwards. It's, for me, when I'm performing is the time which is the best time of my life. So I think, again, that's something that Pankaj taught me, not to look at the result, but just enjoy the process.
That's really wonderful. That is true of most things. Yes. If you do that, life seems so much simpler. So you both Jerry Pinto just finished the session before this, and he was talking about the time that was the 1980s and what it was to be young and starting out then. That was the decade you both came into Bombay, and we think OTT has brought around a watershed moment. But that too was a watershed moment. You had television, you had serials, the VHS onslaught had begun. Some people were tentatively making those video cassette films. So, how was your engagement with cinema? I'll start with Pankaj at that time. And of course, you were the voice of the Hindi Gandhi as well.
Well, I think it was initially once one came from theatre, I mean, I was a professionally employed actor with the National Repertory Company in Delhi. And once I shifted to Mumbai, it was difficult to survive because the kind of cinema one wanted to do, there would be maybe one film in 2 years or so with the parallel cinema filmmakers, and if you're lucky you'd be cast in that. So it was a great thing for us, though it happened very accidentally in my case, that this series called Karamchand came my way. I very reluctantly accepted it. I was not wanting to be a part of television, but I realized that for survival I needed to do something. So here was something that came my way, and I suddenly realized that what a large medium it was, though at that time it was only Doordarshan which was available. But frankly, as a theatre actor, I never imagined the kind of popularity that it gave me, and I never knew that what it was like to step out on the road and be crowded with people and being recognized, etc. Though I was not very comfortable with it, I'll be honest with you. So I did request God that give me popularity, but not the kind where I can't sit on a dhaba and have a cup of tea. And He has exactly given me that. So, but thank you. But it started with the mad popularity of Karamchand, and I realized the potential of the medium of television. Therefore, I devoted a large decade of my life, I would say almost a decade of my life to television, simply because as an actor I was being offered different kinds of characters to play, whereas at that time the cinema that was being made would offer me only a heroine's brother or a hero's friend or a villain's crony or some such role. But television offered me different kinds of people, different kinds of characters, and I was extremely happy with the kind of work that I was doing in television, and it paid me well. And it made me survive very well. And it also made my audiences aware of my abilities, which is what sort of led me into doing some of the film work that I did later, where the producers and directors, after seeing my television work, decided that they would want to pick me and use in their films. So yes, in the 80s, it was a great time when the television came into existence and became a part of our lives.
I also think that the reach that we realized that the television did have, the amount of people we could come across to, the kind of stories we would want to tell, and the amount of people we could reach out to through this medium called television was amazing. And at that time, I do feel that the work done on television was also very good. Very new, very innovative, very literature-based.
I was going to ask, you had that Katha Sagar.
Yes, and there were these stories of all the great writers and the stories that we had heard from childhood, we were kind of enacting them. So it was something which brought books into people's lives, stories of different kinds, of different genres. So it was an amazing time, very creative time, the 80s in television.
The 80s,
yes.
And the beginning of 90s,
yes.
A few years of 90s, yes.
So in that period, you did an iconic movie called Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, and I was delighted. It's a book that has a book. It's a movie that has a book on it, so that's something to be said. And I was watching it recently on Amazon Prime, where it is. It is lovely at the start. It's going beautifully with Nasir Saab and Ravi Baswani. But the movie really explodes when DeMello and your character come into the scene. So can you tell us how you landed that role and how you created that robotic and marvelous character?
Well, I'll be honest, I was asked to do the other role, which was played by Om Puri Saab. I was initially cast for
Taneja.
that role, Taneja. And Ahuja.
Ahuja.
Ahuja. I was asked to play
You were
Taneja.
Taneja.
I was Taneja. I was asked to play Ahuja, and I said yes to that because Ranjit Kapoor was writing the film, and I had a great association with him on stage. We worked together on a lot of plays. So he had suggested to Kundan, and Kundan cast me in this character. And then later they called me up and they said that they are finding it difficult to cast Taneja if I would want to switch roles. And I said, as long as there's a substantial role and you see me in that role, well, I'm fine doing the other role as well. And then they cast me as Taneja, and they cast Puri Saab as Ahuja much later. So that's how I landed up in that role. Well, it's pleasant to hear what you said just now. At that time when we were working, we were just trying to be a part of that subject and trying to be true to whatever Kundan and Ranjit and all these people had written and whatever Kundan wanted us to do. And trust me, none of us had any clue at that time that this will become a cult film, that this will become a film that people will remember for decades to come. We were just trying to make a film, all of us, but with the utmost honesty on the part of every department. I think that honesty is something that reflects in the film and makes it both entertaining and also provides a lot of stuff for the brains to think about.
I think it's also a fantastic subject. I mean, the whole idea of it, the way it was done was really amazing. And I think, like Pankaj, you always say that it had no budget, it had nothing. So all of them were just trying to survive through the whole film. And God really gave them wonders after that,
But hats off to Kundan's effort, because it was that one man who thought of the subject and decided that he wants to carry on with it. And all of us were just supportive of this one guy. It was I would say, an honest, creative drive of the team of Jaane Bhi Do Yaro that came out with the product that it is today.
It is something that has not aged, or let's say it's aged well.
Yeah.
Because today's teenagers, and sadly some of the themes like corruption are alive and well, so that is also of great help. But truly an amazing film to see even today, and what an ensemble cast. At the same time, you were part of a film which again had a great ensemble cast, and thanks again to OTT, we are rediscovering films like Kalyug, for instance, which, you were pitted against some of the stalwarts of the time, and you were working with the great Shyam Benegal. So this was the time you were, what were you saying? You were just generally
dabbling.
So how was it dabbling with the Kalyug team?
I was very scared. That was my first film. I had no idea what to do and how to do. And with all these people around me, it was not a very pleasant experience that I went through, because I was very worried. I think the character worked because it was very well woven into the script. This character took the sympathy of a lot of people, and that's why it worked so beautifully. But I think as a film, it's a wonderful film. The parallel thing that he did to the Mahabharata was so beautifully done in the modern text that I think the film worked. And again, as Pankaj says, something made honestly and with trying to show the innocence of the characters. I think it works with the audiences. That's what happened with Kalyug also. But it was actually, again, to my mind, it was Shashi Kapoorji who actually made that film. The way he made it, the way he produced it, it was fabulous being in that team. Just that experience of working with those people was superb.
So, again, that's a literary adaptation in one sense. So, it's again going back into literature and finding stories. Earlier in our conversation, you spoke about how your father thought literature taught you the world of literature and stories. Do you occasionally think that Hindi cinema would have been served better if they, dived into that treasure trove of Indian literature more often?
Oh, I wish they had, but at the same time, I'm not sure whether they'll be able to do justice to literature. Because I personally feel that writing is such a superior form in itself that for any cinema to come close to it is a Herculean task. I mean, mediocre writings have been converted into great cinema, but great literature they have not been able to convert into great cinema. So I suppose as a medium, literature is so much more superior. Giving an example, a very tiny example. When a writer writes, a writer says, this is what he or she was thinking, and while thinking this, the other thoughts that came in her mind or his mind were such that it reminded him or her of the childhood. I'm just giving you a very tiny example. How do you create that in cinema? How do you bring about this feeling of what goes on in the mind of a human being through the medium of cinema? You can do it selectively to an extent, but a writer, in terms of his words or her words, can actually take the reader into that moment in terms of how the writer is describing that moment and the state of mind of that person. So I suppose as a medium there is a large difference. So at best probably, they have tried to make War and Peace, they have tried to make Anna Karenina. They have tried all that, but as compared to the books, those are at best said great attempts. But yes, if you look at a book like Godfather, it has been converted into an amazing film, because again it's not that level of literature as say War and Peace or Anna Karenina or things like that. So I would say that there might come a time when there might come a filmmaker who might be able to.
Do you think the OTT with its web series format has a better chance?
They could be closer to it because they have a larger format, but to be able to get the complete essence is difficult. But nevertheless, having said that, in whichever medium, if the writing work or the great literature can reach out to the audiences or to the readers or to the people, it's a very, very welcome thing that would happen, I would say. And I hope there is some OTT platform that will agree to do that.
Yes, it
I
requires a
also,
big-
Yes.
yeah, but I also feel that yes, as you said, that if the Indian cinema had taken from the literature, maybe not complete works of it, but at least had taken the essence of a lot of work that we have done in literature, we've read, it would have made a much more meaningful
trajectory to the story of Indian
I'm sure
cinema.
that,
I think they did it in 50s.
yes, they did, that's
In
what I'm saying.
50s,
Ray
especially
used a lot
Bengali
of-
cinema.
yeah.
Yes.
Also, I think they also use the basic pathos and the thing of any book or any literature and used it in cinema in a very different kind of way. But that is what made that cinema much more meaningful than what we have today. Our cinema is becoming very frivolous now. For some reason, we are not even wanting to delve into stories. So, again, in that, we are hoping that the OTT will help us. To at
Do you
least
think
make
women
stories.
characters would also have been stronger? For instance, if you see
Yeah.
Devi,
Yes.
which was Ray's
Yes.
great adaptation of Tara Shankar, all those women.
Even Saraswati Chandra. That
Saraswati
whole time
Chandra, of course.
where every book was, kind of made into cinema in their own way. I don't think they took it literally, but they took the basic stories and made them into cinema. They were so much more meaningful. There was so much more storytelling rather than just anecdotes being put together and made into a film. And yeah, hoping that again the OTT will be able to create again that era for us would be a good thing, because we have such beautiful literature.
And across an array of languages. We
Absolutely,
are in the city which gave in which the first classical language tag was given to Oriya,
Yeah.
and many of us don't know the great stories from this
Yeah,
region.
we don't.
So perhaps cinema can at least
Yeah.
introduce us to these
Which
different
again we
worlds.
did with television, as I was saying, you know. I mean, I remember Pankaj had done Premchandji's Godan, and it was, yeah, and you had done Rahi Masoom Raza's
Neem ka
Neem
ped.
Ka Ped, you know, very, very interesting stories which were made into television serials and told. And I think it helps people I mean, even if you don't read them, you at least know those stories.
Yes, it's
That's
like a
very important.
translation. They
Yeah,
say it's like
it
when
is.
you pour one bottle of ether into another, some
Ji,
fragrance will be lost, but some is
exactly.
still
Absolutely
retained.
there.
No conversation with the two of you before I throw it open to the audience is complete without discussing your amazing ability to translate humor on stage and in cinema. Uh, we knew about Pankajji's abilities with Karamchand. Idhar udhar, you were more the straight guy, but in time, what followed in several series was just unbelievable. So, how hard or how easy is comedy for each of you? I'll start with Supriya ji this time.
Well, I think comedy is very difficult. Uh, but most enjoyable because that gives you a scope of trying to do a kind of timing bit every time you perform, every time you do it, and it's very difficult to be able to be funny, but it's so nice to make people laugh. It makes you feel very happy. At least I feel very happy and satisfied when somebody says, "Ah, you really made me laugh," which was really, it's a big compliment for me. But performing it is difficult but fun.
What about you, Pankaj? You are just incredible.
Uh, well, thank you for saying that, but I would also say it's very difficult, first of all, to write humor.
Yeah.
There are hardly people who can write humor, and if they write in a very, what they consider humor is mostly looked upon as a, I call it, some part of my work I call as more of social awareness or a, how, what was it that I used to say? I'm forgetting that. That it's not, there could be a smile on your face, but to make people laugh is a different matter altogether. If you are able to do that, as she said just now, it gives you the greatest level of pleasure, but we have indulged in it in a minor manner and would say that, I mean, we are nowhere close to some of the finest people who have given us humor in the world. Like, not one instance that can be narrated about even a 1-minute film by Chaplin, for that matter. I mean, the kind of level of humor and the kind of level of content that he had. But yes, at whatever level we got an opportunity to create that humor and provide it for our audiences, even if it was to do with a bit of laughter track in the background or with a bit of social awareness or pulling some character's leg, etc., etc., it's still worth attempting, I would say. But humor is a difficult ball game, and to actually genuinely make people laugh is really, really difficult, but great in case you can do it. And in case any one of you feel that either she or me have been able to do it at some stage, well, we are really, really grateful to you guys. Thank you.
And the other thing you both did rather well, looking at how friendly and non-threatening you both look in real life, is
Yeah.
playing evil. Your Abbaji and your Ramleela were just... So how was it again to play those characters with the surma and the gaze, and of course her with the heavy kajal and the gaze?
So basically, we were gazed. No, I think
Did you enjoy it? You seem to be enjoying it.
I enjoyed playing evil. Well, I never thought that I could play, to tell you honestly, because I'd come from a very different kind of work. Uh, you know, the past of my life, I had not done this kind of work, and when I was given Dhankor, I think it was very challenging, and I enjoyed her because I had never done anything like that before. But Pankaj has a take on it that I have an evil eye, so he knows the evil eye. Everybody couldn't believe that, Are aap aisa, you can be that bad. And Pankaj said, you don't know, she's really bad. So that was the reason maybe
There's more
why
of
I
a
got
joke
it.
between us. I think she did a wonderful job in that. She's a very fine actor herself, and she did a wonderful job in that. Well, when it comes to what you asked about Maqbool, I would say that I look upon a character as it comes to me from the point of view as to what is required of me and what is the demand of the script. So when the script came to me and I was asked by Vishal to play Abbaji, I did tell him that I'll take about a month to see what I can do with it. And we had a series of discussions to be able to understand what he wanted out of the character. And I must confess that I loved every moment of the character that I played. And I completely enjoyed doing that. But when I say I enjoyed doing it, means that I enjoyed creating that human being that Vishal had written and giving life to that person and making him a new person for the film, a character which has got nothing to do with a whole lot of other characters that I might have played in the other films, etc., which was more of a challenge for me and which was more pleasurable for me than just playing a bad man. I looked upon that character more as a complete human being with whatever shades life gives to each human being.
Super. I think that's a great point to turn the... There's a question right in front.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm extending the point to Maqbool. In childhood, we used to remember Rajkumar. बच्चों के खेलने की चीज़ नहीं है, हाथ कट जाए तो खून निकल आता. And then after viewing you in different forum, I remember गिलौरी खाया करो गुलफाम, जवान काबू में रहती है. I just want to know what inspired you with that gauge, and no one was taking out the knife, but the intensity was, I would say, better than what it was.
I think it's a great line that Vishal wrote, and the moment that he created was brilliant, which was after discussion that we had together, because I pointed out to him that, well, this guy is supposed to be very dangerous, but we have no sequence in the entire film where he seems so threatening that he might have murdered a few people in his youth or in days gone by. So Vishal came up with this scene and with this line. So the line belongs to Vishal. I, as an actor, just had to do what I needed to do to convey the line to my audiences. So if you remember it, I'm grateful, which means I must have done a fair amount of job in that. Thank you.
Yes. There's a lady there. We'll try and keep some gender parity.
Hello, complete fangirl moment for both of you. We have to take special permission to stay up for Karamchand. My question is to Supriya ji. You were compared to Shabana Azmi and Smita Patil with Bazaar and those kind of roles, but after a point you kind of strayed completely away from the art film kind of roles, and now one watches you more on television with a khichdi kind of role. What happened? Why did you not continue with those kind of roles?
I think there was this time when, as you said, that there were great actors like Shabana ji and Smita ji and all them, so they would get the roles and we would not. That was basically it. But I think it kind of, there was, as Pankaj ji said earlier, there were very few films at that time being made, so whatever you could get your hands on or whatever you were selected for, you had to do your best in that. It was not very much of I had a leisure of kind of choosing my roles. It wasn't that much that at that time. Later on, I took a kind of seat back when I had my daughter, because I wanted to give my children the maximum time that I could. and therefore I didn't want to work outside because that would deprive them from me spending time with them, which was my priority. So that's what I took a time off with. At that time, we did work together with Pankaj and me. We started a company. So that was the whole process of it. And then I came back working when the kids became bigger and I could let them be alone. I came with khichdi because that was something that I really enjoyed doing. Thanks, because I really love Hansa myself. So I am like, yeah. So I thought it was, it was such a beautiful and very funny. When I read the script for the first time, the first script, I laughed so much myself that I wanted to be a part of it. So that's how I came back with khichdi. And then I just kept working as and when whatever one could get one's hands on. But I enjoyed whatever work I'd done. And, I've always tried choosing different kinds of roles to do. And now, at this time, you do get better, I think you get better work. And therefore, I can slightly, as I say, can be choosy. And I'm at this time doing a lot of interesting work, which is fun for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my God, there's a profusion of hands.
Yeah.
We'll take the person with the black shirt first.
Very good evening, sir and ma'am.
Good evening.
My name is Rajesh, and I've been listening to you, and it's been so fantastic listening to your views and all. My only question is, you have seen time change, you have seen literature change, you have seen cinema evolve. Now, at this present day where we stand, as a writer, is it important for us to be brutally honest to the point, or go in an indirect hint and sugarcoat a story and present it? Because I've been reading your book, sir. It has so much of purity and sanctity right now. And somewhere or the other, I feel there is a lacking of that sanctity or purity in the current literature. So I would like to have some guidance from you regarding this.
Well, I can't be guiding, but I can, from a common sense point of view, I can only suggest a few things. You should never give up honesty to start with. Never. As a writer or as a creative person, you should find ways and means of conveying that honesty that does not become in the face and offensive. Yet it remains honest. There are ways and means of doing it. So find those ways and means of expression, that you can tell a story, you can tell the truth, you can tell what is going about around you, but tell it in a manner that the reader also understands and nobody can put a finger at you. You will have to find a way how to do it, but you must do it. You must stay honest to your times, honest to your heart, honest to the way that you want to tell the story.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
There's a lady in white at the back.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
In your decades-long experience, have you found out, is there any particular emotion or scenario that when an actor nails to portray, they have reached a certain level of greatness as an actor or can be put apart from the rest? Was I not clear in my question?
Yeah, can you just rephrase
yes,
it? Yeah.
Yes, I can. So, is there any particular emotion or a scenario that as an actor, any actor, if they nail to play that, if they perfect that,
Yeah.
they have reached a certain level of greatness as an actor or can be put apart from that?
Yes, I think so. I think it's very, there is not a particular emotion, but there is all kinds of, it's a gamut of emotions. And if you can play even one part of it to its, as again Pankaj says, honestly, and to its honesty, I think you achieve a sense of greatness that you feel good about. Like I say that, when you perform well, you know you've performed well. Somehow something inside you tells you, especially when you're performing a play and you're acting in theatre, you definitely have a moment, or at least one, at least I feel that way, that you know you have a show. When you get off the stage, you know that you've done a good job today. It's been a good play. It's good.
But not while in the process of doing
Not
it.
while in the process, but when you get off the stage, you know, when you come back to your green room, you feel satisfied because you've been able to create and to believe in the emotion that the character believes in for maybe just that moment or just that performance. It doesn't happen every time, but it can happen, and which is, I think, the high point of being an actor.
But never give up trying to find more.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. And
We'll
Thank
come to this side. There's a, yeah, this.
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार मैम।
Yes.
मेरा दिल काफ़ी ज़ोरों से धड़क रहा है आप दोनों को देखकर।
पानी पी लो थोड़ा सा यार।
और तीव्र इच्छा हो रही है कि मैं वहाँ आकर आप दोनों के चरण छू सकूं। मुझे
बहुत मत
चरण
करना।
मत छूना बेटा, हम लोग
बाकी
बहुत
पानी वानी
सो मेरा सवाल है, 2003 में एक फिल्म आई थी मकबूल,
जी,
जिसके लिए आपको नेशनल अवार्ड से सम्मानित किया गया। उसका एक डायलॉग मेरे जहन में हमेशा रहता है कि अरे क्या करे मियाँ ये इश्क बहुत बड़ी बीमारी है। ठीक है, इश्क बहुत बड़ी बीमारी है, पूरी कायनात मेरी मुट्ठी में है, लेकिन एक औरत नहीं संभाली जा रही हमसे। ठीक है, और फिर आई कि आपकी अभी एक जर्सी आपके बेटे के साथ, शाहिद कपूर सर के साथ, आप जैसे अपने वॉइस को चेंज करते हैं और उसे जिस कन्विक्शन के साथ पकड़ के रखते हैं एज पर द कैरेक्टर, स्टार्टिंग को मकबूल से जब से मैंने देखना शुरू
What's
किया।
your question, my son?
वही कि उतना कन्विक्शन से आप अपने वॉइस को चेंज करके उसको कैसे फॉलो करते हैं। जस्ट टू आई वांट टू नो दैट बीइंग एन एक्टर।
बेटे ऐसे कोई टेक्निकल तरीका तो नहीं है
जी।
मैंने जैसे अभी पहले अर्ज़ किया जब हम बात कर रहे थे कि जैसे हम लोग बात कर रहे थे कि भाई जो भी कैरेक्टर आपको दिया जाता है ना, या जो भी स्क्रिप्ट आपके पास आता है, वो स्क्रिप्ट आपके लिए बतौर अभिनेता डिफ़ाइन करता है कि आपको इस कैरेक्टर को किस तरह से करना है। और अगर आप उसी स्क्रिप्ट में ज़्यादा तलाशेंगे तो उसको करने के तरीक़े भी आपके सामने आ जाएंगे। तो ये पहले से तय नहीं होता है कि अच्छा मैं ये रोल नया मिल रहा है तो इस रोल में मैं कुछ ऐसी आवाज़ कर लेता हूँ। जिस तरह का किरदार होता है, उसकी जो ज़रूरत होती है, उस तरह के उसी हिसाब से बतौर अभिनेता आप उस कैरेक्टर पे काम करते हो और उस किरदार को ज़िंदा करने की कोशिश करते हो। तो उसमें ऐसा तजर्बा ऑडियंस को कभी कभार हो जाता है कि आपने एक कैरेक्टर में मुख्तलिफ़ तरह से आवाज़ का इस्तेमाल किया, दूसरी में अलग तरह से किया। बतौर अभिनेता ये आपका काम है कि अगर आप अलग अलग तरह के लोगों को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं या दिखा रहे हैं, दर्शा रहे हैं, सो देयरफॉर it's important that you are able to live those characters and bring about those people as those human beings in front of your audiences. So it's just like anybody working on any job that they do. If they do it with honesty and to the best of their ability, they will acquire abilities which a lot of people will question, how could you do it? You know, for instance, a professor of mathematics, if he's really good at his job and applies himself with honesty, he could tell you calculations which most other people may not be able to say. So it's a matter of application, it's a matter of honesty, and it's a matter of constant hard work towards what you want to achieve. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Superb. There's a bespectacled man there, gentleman there, yes. We'll just take two more questions because I think each of you has a question. So we have a show after this. Shujat will be performing.
First of all, it's a privilege to watch both of you in person here. Okay, my question is like, I hear a lot from Supriya madam here also and earlier also that you need to act honestly. What do you actually mean when you say honestly act? Do you mean to say that you relate to some emotion that you have felt in your real life in past and portray, means connect it to the character and then express? And if so, then how do you deal with the impact that by revisiting that emotion that has on you after the acting?
See, beta, the main thing is that when we say honestly means whatever is written by the writer, whatever is the concept of the director, whatever is the storyline, whatever is the character, the way it is explained in the script. So if you try and bring something from outside of the script and say, if I speak this like this, it'll look very good, but it's not a part of the script. If you follow the script, you are being honest. If you follow what is written in the script and what is expected of you by the director and the writer, and you dig deeper, you will find a few things of your own also, which can provide that truth to that character that the writer has written and the director is going to shoot or direct, etc. That's what is meant by the honesty. And when you go through the process of truth of that character, the moments of emotions, etc., will automatically happen in case you are following the path of the truth of that character, not of any outside force, vis-a-vis the subject that has been written.
I also have one little thing to add. You know, Pankaj had once told me when I started, as I said, that he said, you know, when you read a script, you must realize that no two people in the world are the same. And that, I think, is where honesty lies. That when you look at a character, look at it from that person's point of view, that milieu that that person is in. Don't look at it from your point of view. But to the second question, part of your question, that yes, you do derive from certain happenings that have happened in your life and can use that to portray a certain emotion on screen or on stage. So you can utilize your memories and come out, can portray that emotion better if you have certain memories, you know, kind of joined to that. It does exhaust you, you have to relive a lot of things, but that, I think, is what acting is all about and what the whole process, as we say, we enjoy the process, is really.
But the experience will be very selective, please remember that.
Yeah.
For instance, you might be playing a killer you may not have killed before. So what I'm saying is, yes, certain emotions you will have recorded in your subconscious, they'll come out, but there'll be certain experiences that you might need to recreate and search the truth of those experiences for yourself vis-a-vis the script at that given time in the process of preparation of that character.
There's a lady there who's got a mic. Just one more question. We'll just take this and one more.
Yeah, first of all, if I can very briefly, like from childhood, we have seen you on screen and loved you. And people are asking about honesty. When we are interacting with you, it's very obvious what honesty is and how you express that.
Thank you so much.
My question was actually kind of, I don't really agree with something that you said, which is about adaptations of, since this is about literature and film, adaptations of great literature into film. Don't you think that movies like, say, in India, like we have had Pathak Panchali and the, you know, the series, the trilogy, or in Odisha we have had, you know, Matira Manisa or Molla Janha, Chemin, Old Man and the Sea. I mean, there are countless examples. Streetcar Named Desire. Are they not great adaptations of the literature, or do they not sometimes surpass the literature, if not, you know, hold their own? That's my question.
If you're asking me,
Yes.
then I would say that when I was speaking about the literature not being able to be converted into great cinema, well, there are exceptions and I'm not saying no to them. I have been a fan of all these films that you have mentioned. I've not seen the Odia films though. I've seen Ray Babu's work, so I'm aware of the greatness of his work and how he adapted these into cinema. But I spoke about it as a by and large situation, that not all great literature can be converted into great cinema. It can be covered. It can be made into a story, as she mentioned, that it can be adapted for the medium, but it may not turn out to be a great film in itself. You can have coverage of that subject, but there is a difference between the greatness of a Pathak Panchali or the greatness of a Charulata, or the coverage of another piece of literature which might have been covered by somebody. That's where I came from when I talked about the fact that a great piece of literature may not necessarily become a great film.
Thank you. I also feel that, you know, when you read a book leaves a lot to your own imagination. It's a very personal, very private, it's a very your own kind of an experience or a journey that you go through when you're reading. When you see a film, it's all come out in black and white, you know, it's all there. Now you can't imagine it beyond this because it's already there.
That's how the director is showing it to you.
Yeah, that's how his image of it is. When you read a book, that's why I always feel literature is much, much more superior in art than anything else. Books are much, much more, you know, bigger and much better than anything because it gives you an imagination, your mind to think so much more than what something as limited as a film or a television or anything that kind of, even a stage performance kind of brings it down to.
Let me give a tiny example, allow me a very tiny example. In the sentence it is written that आसमान में चांद बड़ा खूबसूरत लग रहा था. राइटर ने ये लिखा है. जितने लोग यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं उन सब का चांद अपनी डायमेंशन का, अपनी तरह का, अपने कलर का होगा. लेकिन जब फिल्म मेकर उसको बना देगा वो उसका कलर, उसकी डायमेंशन और उसकी ब्यूटी को डिफाइन कर देगा उतने भर के लिए. दैट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन सिनेमा एंड लिटरेचर.
Thank you so much.
So I guess it's fair to say that literature fires the imagination while cinema stirs the emotion.
Yes,
Very,
absolutely
very
right.
extremely
Beautifully
well
kept.
put. I must
Very
say that.
beautifully said.
Very nicely said.
I think one question, this gentleman with his, he's written it out, so yes, please.
Thank you so much. I am Ananta Kumar Giri from Odisha and Chennai. Now, Kapurji, you mentioned about writing, and I wish to know what is your process of writing that experience. And secondly, this whole process of really creating a new character with a sense of fullness. And I wish to know the spiritual dimension of it.
You know the spiritual dimension of it.
Spiritual dimension of that process of identifying with the fullness of a character, not making a judgment, and creating a new person out of the script that is given.
I do not know what exactly that would be. I'll be very honest about it. All that I can say is that when a script comes to you, you try and understand what is the milieu, what are the situations in which the story is happening, and then you read that character and you try and understand the journey of that character from the writer's point of view. Then you discuss it with the director and you take the director's point of view. Then you use your own experience, your knowledge, your own intuition, your own understanding of the text that is in front of you, and then you try and create this person. I suppose each one of us has a spiritual part to us, and I presume that when you create a character and you create that character in a manner that it becomes alive on screen or on stage, well, spirituality somewhere would be existing as a part of that character, in that character itself. But I don't see a separate spiritual path that should be followed to be able to create that character as an actor, I would say that.
Well, I'm sorry we are completely out of time, and it's been so wonderful, such an utter privilege to have two stalwarts like you. You must come for Dopahari tomorrow. It's written by Pankaj ji and performed with such rare excellence that it'll be something to tell your grandchildren about. It's produced by Supriya ji, 7 o'clock at the Rail Auditorium tomorrow. Thank you so much for making time for this. Always a pleasure at the Tata.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being there.
Dopahari is a reading of my novella. Whoever wants to come should be aware of that. Thank you.
Yes, and the novella is available at the bookstore.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.